Okay, the next step in our journey to coming up with our thesis statement is taking a look at these sources and finding what evidence there is out there, finding that evidence to support both sides of the issue before determining which side you can write the stronger argument for. So what we did in class is with a group, we each looked at one source. We gathered information from each of those sources to support both sides of the issue. Should students be allowed to use their cell phones in class? And that way we didn't all have to look at all 5 sources. Then we determined what the reasons were to support both sides of the issues with that evidence, and then determined from those reasons which we were going to use in our own essay. So we're going to take a look at each of these sources, just like the summary of the evidence together, and what reasons each of those pieces of evidence supports. You can find this presentation under 1.4 source evidence. That way you can take a look at the sources and the evidence that we brainstormed from each of those sources, and you can look at all of that at your own pace. So the first source we looked at, this group looked at this video. There's a cell phone in your student's head, and the people in the video are talking about this study that was done, and this is the evidence they found. Students performed worse when the phone was nearby on the desk. Being separated from the phone had the best outcomes, and the phone has a powerful influence, occupying mental space even as they ignore it. So in the video, they're discussing this study where students took a math test, and there were 3 different scenarios. They had the phone like on the desk face down, in their pocket or in their bag, or in a different room. And the only instance where the scores went up is when the phones were in another room. So even if the phone is like off or in your bag or put away, it still distracted students significantly and impacted their scores. So the reason why students should not be allowed to have their phones in class that we determined from this evidence, and students perform better on assessments when they don't have their phones with them. The next source was this article, Watch Out, Cell Phones Can Be Addictive, and this group found this evidence for students should. Men use technology, cell phones in particular, more for entertainment and information. Women use the phone more for maintaining and nurturing. So the reason why they should have them in class is that students can use them to find information. Evidence to support that students should not be allowed to use their phones in class. Too much phones can interfere with normal activities or cause conflicts with family and painful physical and mental systems after disconnecting with an addiction. Women are most likely to show signs of addiction if they're using these particular apps. Some cell phone users show the same symptoms that a drug addict may have. Some people use smartphones to lift their moods, and it may take more and more time on those phones to provide the same level of enjoyment. So just like with any type of addiction, as you build up a tolerance, it requires more and more of that thing to get the same level of like enjoyment or dopamine in your brain. So the reason why students should not, based on this evidence, is that students did we say something about addiction or just that they're distracted? I think we just said that students are distracted. Cell phones can be addictive and have negative impacts on students. Next, we have this article, Do Phones Belong in Schools? This group found the evidence here for should. He added that allowing phones to be accessible can enrich lessons and provide opportunities to use technology for school-related purposes. So some apps have features, and there are some things we can do on our phones that we can't do on desktop computers or like the laptop computers. So a reason that we should is that it enriches lessons with apps that aren't available on desktop or on like laptop computers. For example, I know you guys like to use like the PowerSchool app. It's a lot more user-friendly on the app version than on the web version. There's also like virtual reality that you could use on the phone and other apps and websites and things that you could do on the phone that you just can't do on the computer. Next, supporters of these initiatives have cited links between smartphone use and bullying and social isolation and the need to keep students focused on schoolwork. So we said over here, cyberbullying and social isolation are harmful to students. Those are reasons why we should not use them in class. And the human brain is incapable of thinking more than one thing at a time. What we think of as multitasking is actually rapid switch tasking. The problem with that is that switch tasking may cover a lot of ground in terms of different subjects, but it doesn't go deeply into any of them. So students can't multitask. What they think is multitasking is switch tasking, which only allows surface level thinking. So we can cover like a lot of ground, but only surface level. And what you are required to do at school is requiring a deeper level of thinking than what we can do when we task switch, not multitask. So that is a reason why students should not use them in class. Next, we have this article, No Mobile Phones Should Not Be Banned in UK Schools. Smartphones are used to make calls, run businesses, and organize social lives. And this down here, whether we embrace it or not, mobile technology is a fundamental part of the modern world. Today's students will have jobs that rely on technology, and they need to mature enough to use it wisely and appropriately. So we said that students need to learn how to communicate appropriately as a life skill. So thinking like beyond your life at school, when you have a job, when you're in school, or after you graduate from high school, using mobile technology appropriately is a life skill. So teaching it at school is a reason why students should have them in the classroom. And this evidence here supports that. This next piece, however, those same phones also became a valuable resource for many innovative teachers. Here was an opportunity to develop innovative learning strategies using technology which provided students with access to a knowledge base far beyond the confines of the classroom. So that further supported this idea that phones allow teachers and students to enrich lessons in a way that the desktop or the laptop computers do not. Evidence to support that they should not. As a teacher, I personally witnessed the impact that rapidly evolving mobile phones had in the classroom. A new behavioral issue fast became a key challenge, how to deal with yet another distraction. So here we have students are distracted, and that causes behavior issues. They also raise concerns over their potential impact on our health, society, and education. The rationale, I suspect, is that by removing the catalyst for poor behavior, the mobile phone, we remove the issue. So again, the behavior issues and the cyberbullying, social isolation, being harmful to students, like that's a component of the behavior that we don't deal with if we don't have phones, is like the cyberbullying. This is the last source. The positive thing about cell phones in the class is that it can share, or you can share lectures, course materials, notes, assessments, all of these things. If these kids bring their smartphones to class, the learning process will be more straightforward for several reasons. They will be familiar with the gadget and learn faster because they know where to press, tap, blah, 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 blah. So we said like all of this evidence here supports that cell phones could be a backup if students don't have their computers. So if you don't have your school issued device, then you have your phone and you can still complete your schoolwork. And this evidence here supports that reason. And last, these two pieces. Teachers and school administrators have maintained that having cell phones is bad because they cause a distraction. Again, supporting this reason here. Most schools use school-owned tablets and laptops to teach younger children how to operate technological gadgets. And the reason that that evidence supports is that students already have school-issued computers to complete their schoolwork, which makes having a cell phone obsolete. And that evidence here supports that reason. Once again, these are all of the reasons that we brainstormed using the evidence that we collected from these 5 sources.